Hi, I'm John,
This is Nick.
And I'm Andrew.
and welcome to episode 7 of the JNA Podcast, lucky number 7. And this was a Nick's topic this week, and what he wanted to talk about is something I am prepared to more or less not contribute to, and that is how is the virus affecting sports right now? And Nick's kind of into this, so Nick, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thanks, John. I wanted to do this topic because over the last few episodes, we've been doing some pretty serious topics and some pretty deep ones. So I wanted to kind of go over what's on everybody's mind and have somewhat of a loose topic for everybody to kind of, listen to. Another reason why I wanted to do this topic was because obviously it's a big deal, and we've never really dealt with this, so we kind of don't know what changes are actually going to be made to the life of sports. So this is a couple reasons why I wanted to do this. One of the first things I kind of want to poke at a little bit is the fact that many of the sports that are opening up or still in question of opening up, they're talking about not having fans at the events. Now, my opinion on that is I think that's going to hurt sports tremendously because a lot of people feed off that energy, and a lot of people kind of, especially the players, I should say, they feed off of that energy as, as their arena, especially home court advantage. So I want to hear, Andrew, your opinion. I mean, how do you think that's going to affect the players overall when it comes to them actually, playing their sport?
Well, they are thinking about having some fans, but just like very spread out. I'm pretty sure it was actually Canadian football just had a game and they had like I think it was like 1,000 fans there, but they had them like really spread out, like obviously 6 feet and so on and so forth. I agree with you on how it would affect the sports themselves, especially team sports. I mean, obviously they feed off the fans, but like there would be no reason to have home court advantage in basketball or home field advantage in football anymore. You know what I mean? It's beyond the weather. I mean, in basketball, that's not going to matter. Uh, it's just weird. It's so weird. Like, I don't know if anybody watched the UFC event last night, but without like fans there cheering and everything, it just takes the energy out of it. It seems so weird.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, John? What do you think?
I guess I don't quite necessarily get that. Like, you know, the only experience I have when it comes to doing anything in a public venue is, playing music. And one thing we were taught was, pretend the audience isn't there. Just, do your thing. So I guess I don't quite see how that might, affect player performance or anything like that.
Well, it does in many ways. Like, say if you're playing the basketball and you have the home court, like the crowd tends to be quiet when you're on offense or indoor, giving you like morale boost to cheering and for you and everything on that. But when you're on defense, you're trying to concentrate on shooting. They're going to be yelling. They're going to be trying to distract you any way possible. You know what I mean? And just to get like. If it's one or two people, like it's easy to ignore one or two people. It's hard to ignore 10,000.
Hmm.
Well, you hit it on the nail there. I mean, when you brought up the point of, there's 1,000 people in the stands of the Canadian football game that you were referring to, 1,000 fans in the stands compared to what they're used to dealing with isn't nothing. Yeah, and I mean, it's still going to be quiet as a mouse. And basketball is a good example on how they feed off energy more or less than other sports because, if you get on a hot streak, you make a 3-pointer or you make a good dunk. I mean, that energy of the fans erupting kind of just gives you that boost of ego and that boost of confidence that you are that leads you into another good play or a good series. I really do think that's going to kind of hurt the players. But for an example, you got players like Stephon Curry and LeBron James. They feed off of that energy. Those are two players in particular that really feed off of fans. You know what I mean? The stars like that. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was LeBron James when this first came out said that he didn't even want to play if fans weren't available or weren't attending. I find that to be ridiculous all itself, but it is a big deal, especially to your superstar players, not just in basketball, but in football, golf, hockey. I mean, think of it if you're in a big ass arena, right? Especially football, how they got their arenas are usually a little bit bigger than other sports. But imagine you're playing a football game. You got 1,000 people in the stands that you could barely hear anyways, right? You throw a touchdown pass and it's quiet as a mouse. The feeling of it is just completely diminished. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The the celebrations, the celebrating with your team, and that energy is just not there. Will that affect their play on the field or the court? That's another good question.
Yeah, but it's like they either have to do that or they're not going to be able to have it at all. You know what I mean? They're not going to be able to. They're not going to. Way things are going right now, at least for like baseball, basketball, and almost football, it seems like it's going to be too. That they're not going to be able to have any games whatsoever unless they diminish the fans that come to the games. It's like it's where I don't like. I think the industry's just trying to save their money, and I think they have to do something. Just like the UFC, they know they had to do something. I think Dana White's got like a certain amount of cards that he has to put out because he's in a deal with like ESPN Plus and Disney. So he's got a certain amount of fights he has to put out, and if he doesn't put out those fights, then he gets like fine money or whatever. So like it's same thing for football, basketball, and football and everything. Like, I don't think they have contracts per se, but if they're not putting the games on at least television, they're gonna like lose 100% of revenue instead of just like 40 or whatever the number would be. Well,
that's another good question on how this will affect the actual revenue of the sports itself. I mean, if you don't have fans attending and the game is not played the same on the assumption that they don't play the same, they don't perform the same and all that, is it fair that they should be paid the same, or should they take some kind of a pay cut? What is your thoughts on that, guys?
I don't know. That's tough to say, man. They deserve pay cuts anyways, man. There ain't no reason to be making $200 million for shooting a damn basketball. Come on, man. You know what I mean? And that's just a ridiculous amount of money. You just don't need that much money. Like, I don't think, even if they did take a pay cut, like they could cry a river for all I care. I don't want to hear them complain.
Understand. What about you, John?
I'm in the same boat. Like, professional athletes are way the fuck too overpaid. If you're asking me, the idea that, okay, I guess I don't understand the importance of it because that's it. This is a situation where everybody is suffering, and yeah, I mean, why should professional sports people be protected from going or not having a job any more than anybody else?
I would agree. And don't get me wrong. I don't agree that they should be paid $200 million or $300 million for 3 or 4 years of playing a sport. I think they're way overpaid. However, I do agree that they should be compensated because they put their bodies on the line. I mean, you got to think of all the training and they're told when to eat, what to eat, especially during the season and the regular part of the season. It's just it comes to mind that, I mean, they do deserve to be compensated for that, but to the degree that they're compensated for now is just astronomically ridiculous, in my opinion. But if I had to throw this out there, because of the virus, I mean, if you can't have fans attend the event and you can't put fans in the seats, you shouldn't still be able to receive millions and millions of dollars like that. I believe you should have some kind of pay cut. I mean, think about me and you, John. I mean, I don't know about you if you still got paid unemployment or laid off time, and I'm a bad example because I worked the whole entire time because I work over the phone anyways. But for Andrew and, girlfriend and many others, I mean, some of them took a pay cut, some of them didn't. But, if you weren't there to perform, then who's to say you should, get 100% of your pay? So I agree.
I think it should be the other way around. I think the people that are the essential employees should have got more increased pay because they're putting themselves at risk. And then people that are not essential, they I don't know. This whole thing's a mess. Like, it's hard to say who's going to get the money or what. But I definitely think the essential employees should be the first to the head of the line, not to get the receive pay cuts. You know what I mean?
No, I get that. I agree with that overall. But for sports, first of all, they're not essential. Let's agree to disagree with that. They are definitely not essential. That's the reason why they haven't been doing anything in the world of sports for the past few months, or I should say at least 2 or 3 months now. But if you're going to change the game to where we can't enjoy it like we used to, I don't feel it's fair that they get paid the same as what they used to, because they're going to expect more and more, especially when fans start coming back and things start getting back to regular business. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think they should take somewhat of a pay cut. The fact that, number one, they've been off for the last 3 months, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think you should be compensated no matter what you do for a living. I mean, you can't just expect you not to be able to pay your bills, even though you're a millionaire or not. But I don't agree with it. If things aren't the same as they were, or, you can't put all the fans in the seats as you used to be able to at this point. I don't think you should be paid the same. Let's face it, you're a millionaire. Sell 2 or 3 of your 12 cars, and you'll pay your rent. You know what I mean? Give me a break.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Like they already make way so much money. Like somebody for like Steph Curry or LeBron James, I'm not feeling bad for you guys like whatsoever. Like, oh my God, you guys can't make another $5 million this year. Like, give me a break. I really don't. Like, you got so many people struggling out there right now that just to stay alive, let alone like worrying about if they have to sell another couple of other cars or if they could get the extension on their pool or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck off.
I like the videos you see on Facebook where, people will say, "Oh, follow the procedures, stay home, be healthy," and then you see them in their $12 million mansion.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, really? Yeah, you stay home in your mansion that's got a theater, a theme park, and a carnival, and all this crap that comes with it. And I'll stay home in my house. Okay, let's switch lives for a minute. Let's see if you think the same way.
Yeah, I agree with that. It seems like they're gonna. I think football is actually going to be right on track. I think football is going to open up when it should. I don't think football is going to really. I don't know about if they're going to have fans in there. Like, when does football season even start in college? It starts in September, don't it?
August, I believe.
Yeah, like it starts in like September, so we're still like got plenty of time. But it's at the same time, you could go state by state. You could go to a state like go to Atlanta, and then you could. I think that by the time September comes, we probably have full crowd there, but I don't think Michigan will. So.
Well, here's another good point, though. I mean, when it comes to college teams, I should say, all schools have been shut down for the rest of the year, if I'm not mistaken. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm actually wrong on that. But how are you going to be able to hold a college football game if you're not even open for business?
I think everything is going state by state, to be honest. I think like even the schools, so the sporting events and everything, all that's going state by state. Like, well, they had UFC 249 here last night here in Florida in Jacksonville. It's the reason why they had it here in Florida, because it's only one of the only states that could go do it.
All right. Well, that'll be a little hard for team sports though, because I mean, if you're, Alabama, college football team and you're playing, Michigan Wolverines, and Michigan, from what I know, is one of the strictest right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, John. I'm sure you know about that. If Michigan's saying that we're not hosting that, or we're not, allowing schools to open, or we're not doing any of that, how do you kind of, recreate the schedule? Just offer it, sporadically. How do you just recreate a schedule like that? It's a little weird.
Yeah.
College might be the kind of like the weird one in this bunch, because college, from what I know, schools are all shut down. I know Florida schools are still shut down. They've already said they're done for the remainder of the year. Daycare services, Boys and Girls Club, all that is done for the rest of the year from what I know. So it's I don't know how college is going to approach that same problem. I really don't. But that also brings me to another question for you guys. How will this affect the virus? I mean, how will this virus affect sports moving forward? I mean, even if you slow it down to that degree, how will this affect sports moving forward based on the experience that we're having now? Do you think it'll have any effect on this, or do you think it'll change some regulations, protocols? Do you think they're going to include things? What do you think?
I think of both of that. Everything what you just said is probably going to happen. I don't know if it needs to be as serious as it is going forward. Like we've already finding out that this virus's mortality rate is a lot lower than we initially thought. Because and a lot of other people tend to be asymptomatic. They can get it more than once. Since the last time we've talked about this virus, there's been so much updated on this. Obviously, they are going to implement those anyways. It's going to be weird when it first opens back up, because I know that we've never had this happen. I've even heard people say online that they, even when they're watching movies and they see people shake hands and hug and all that kinds of stuff, it makes them feel weird. Like, hey, what are you doing? 6 feet kind of thing. So especially when these crowds start coming back, I think people are going to feel like weird being crowds. It's going to be weird, I think, when it opens back up.
Imagine seeing people high five everybody in the stands. You're going to think twice about doing that moving forward.
Yeah.
John, what do you think? Do you think there's going to be some procedures in place? Do you think that they're going to make any changes, or what's your thoughts on that?
I guess this is a little bit more broadly applied than just sporting events, but I think it still stands for sporting events. All of this shit, the pandemic and whatnot is it's going to cause a shift in just social interactions and the social contract in general. Like,
Mhm.
we'll probably start seeing fans, intentionally taking, maybe shittier seats or ensuring that, seats around them aren't filled. I think from a official, for lack of a better term, capacity, we'll see things like, not trying to crowd the stadiums as much. I think like even concessions will be handled differently. Like like Andrew said, people are kind of seeing social distancing, or rather seeing lack of social distancing and things like, movies and stuff like that, and getting a little bit leery about it. I really do think that we're going to start prioritizing not just sanitation, but also a certain amount of, staying the fuck away from each other.
Uh, we're also going to start buying a lot more toilet paper more often too.
Yeah, I think we've already did that already, I guess. But I agree with you, John. I think this is going to change, not just the event itself. I mean, it's kind of hard to practice social distancing. I mean, if you've ever been to any kind of sporting event, and I've been to quite a few, you're pretty close together. I mean, there is no getting away from the guy sitting next to you. There is no moving over, a foot or two, because the seats are not that big, first of all, unless you're in like the VIP section or something like that, or the box seats, etc. But if you're just a regular Joe and just out there watching the game in the, the bleachers and, top of the stands, or even, down below, it's hard to do any kind of social distancing. The only way you could do that is limit the amount of fans you have coming to the game.
Yeah.
So in other words, you can't sell out anymore.
Yeah, they're going to start it off with like capacity rates. You know what I mean? They'll open up they'll have a game and they'll have it at like 10% capacity. Then after a month or so, they'll move it up to 20%. Then 50, 60, all the way up until hopefully we get comfortable with being close to each other again. I really hope that it does by the time football starts go back to normal. I mean, that's what I'm hoping, but I don't. It could be false hope.
Well, football and basketball, and you can even throw hockey in there. And baseball, not as much, because baseball is more of a quiet game, anyways. But football, basketball, and hockey, those are three, top dogs that I think are really going to be hurt by different procedures like that being put in place. Because again, they feed off of that energy, and if you start limiting the amount of people that you have come in the game or come in the the arena, and you start putting different protocols on the players, and I think that's going to cause a lot of problems, not just for the fans to watch it and to pay for it still, but also for the players. I mean, and another thing I kind of wanted to ask you guys is, do you think, I mean, let's put yourself in a player's shoes, right? Would you yourself, I mean, because we all know players, they travel, some, depending on your sport, 8 months out the year, 5 months out the year, whatever your sporting lasts throughout the year. But I mean, put yourself in their shoes. How comfortable would you be doing all that traveling, meeting all those faces, coming pretty close to many people every day and going? I mean, would you be comfortable just going back at it like nothing ever happened? Would you have some restrictions for yourself, or what changes would you make, if any?
I would. I'd be fine. It hasn't killed a single NBA player. It hasn't killed a single NFL player. It hasn't killed a single UFC guy. It hasn't killed a single hockey player. It hasn't killed a single. I don't think it's killed any athlete. I think I've heard of it killing like I don't know, Olympic gold medalist or something like that. But beyond that, that's like the only athlete I've ever heard that this virus has gotten. I mean,
why
would you be scared?
Well, you can contribute that to. They shut sports down pretty damn quick. Like, they shut sports down just like they shut schools down. Like, it was done. Like, it was just, kind of just a topic for, just kind of a discussion at first. And then I think it was within a week, they were like, nope, golf is done. Basketball's done. Baseball, you're not even starting. I mean, they shut down things when it comes to sports, especially once those two players from basketball got tested and they tested positive. I think it was two players from the Nuggets, if I'm not mistaken.
Utah.
You Jazz. I think you were correct. But as soon as those players came back positive, they like shut it down very fast. So you could say, yeah, I mean, none of those players died, but realistically, I haven't heard anything other than those two players even becoming positive from it, because they shut down so fast.
Kevin Durant got tested positive.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know
but
that.
they're just healthy. are healthy people. You know what I mean? That's the reason why the virus really doesn't affect them much.
Right.
It's worth pointing out, though, like Nick said, that they shut sports down pretty goddamn quick, and it's more than likely that these athletes were able to just completely, stay isolated, stay in their ivory towers, and not have to worry about contact with other people because hey, they can just pay people to get shit for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you guys, I mean, Andrew, I think I know your opinion. You would be just fine going right back to normal. You wouldn't
Yeah, I
have to
wouldn't.
anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't be scared whatsoever, man. I'd go. I wish I could go back to being normal now.
John, what about you? Would you have any restrictions for yourself? Would you, kind of have any problems about it, or what would you kind of do or think if you were a player?
Honestly, if I was, a player and in a position of influence, I would straight up tell people, don't come to the game. Just watch it from, the safety of your own home on TV or something because what benefit do I get from, potentially putting people at risk? And, we've talked about, feeding off of the energy and shit like that. And while admittedly I don't get it, I would say if I was a person of some influence, the first thing I'm going to try and do is, make sure those people are still around to support me. So, stay the fuck at home, stay the fuck away from me. And, once we have a much more concrete answer of dealing with all this shit, then, let's maybe shake some hands or, let's do some elbow bumps or something.
Right. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, John. And that's a good point you say because it's not only the players that they come in contact with. I mean, any kind of sporting event that you go to. I mean, they have charity events they go to. They meet fans. They sign autographs. I mean, you're talking about all professional sports. They do more, or I shouldn't say do more in general, but they meet and greet a lot of people every single day. It's not like you and I, where we deal with the same handful of people on a daily basis, right? So for me, if I had to put myself in their shoes, I don't think I would restrict anything when it comes to the game. Because, I mean, the players, other than, having maybe the first couple rows behind you, especially in basketball and, not necessarily football, but hockey, I would have the first, couple seatings behind me kind of cleared out so they're not that close to the players. But other than that, during the game, I don't think I would have any restrictions because you're really not coming into contact with people like that. But, when it comes to autograph signing, when it comes to, slapping hands with fans as you go back or back and forth from the locker room during halftime or before or after the game, and certain things like that is what I would restrict more than actual play time. You know what I mean? I think that's what I would do.
It's gotten to the point where you have to make a decision on what you're gonna do, like when it comes to these sports. I mean, because shutting down all these sports, it's gonna take a huge hit into the economy, and unless you get them rolling up again, like when this economy it does get this hit, that's gonna happen. Obviously, when it get it restarted, I mean, sports is one thing that can help it. It's huge revenue. People gamble on it. It's like a bunch of commercials. It just generates so much revenue to just basketball, football alone. Or just them canceling March Madness, dude. Like, I don't know, they lost billions in the economy.
Sports does not contribute really to the economy other than the fact of money exchanging hands, but none of that money leads to the production of goods or it only leads to growing capital, and let's face it, we're talking about amounts of money that they almost literally could not use all of it. So, like, to say that sports has any beneficial effect on the economy is wrong. I'm sorry, but it is.
It all depends on what you're referring to. When it comes to the event itself, you may be correct, John, but you got to think about jersey purchasing, memorabilia itself. I mean, you got to talk about, autographs and how people buy and sell those things all the time. You got to think about a lot of things involved with sports other than just playing the game.
Yeah.
So does it help the economy? There's many hobby shops that sell sports memorabilia. There's many, stores at the arenas that you can go in and buy jerseys, baseball caps or just regular hats or keychains, coasters. I mean, you're talking about a very big market especially when it comes to history. I mean, it's, there's a lot of money in sports itself, not just attending the event, but you're talking about memorabilia. And if, Andrew, you use your example on, like, betting and gambling on especially March Madness, which is a big thing, the Super Bowl with all the squares people do. I mean, that part may not be contributing to the economy like Andrew was thinking, but
Hold
just
on.
hobby dobby shops, they do. Go ahead.
According to sportsconflict.org, the sports industry accounts roughly $14.3 billion in direct earnings each year, with earned salary of $39,000 per job in the sports world. Like, it creates a lot of jobs. That's a lot of revenue going in the economy.
Yes, if you're talking about the wide range of sports itself, I mean, when it comes to concession stand workers, janitors, and I mean, the towel boys, and people that fill up the cups, and I mean, there's many different things that you can contribute to that. But if you're just talking about the game itself, then yes, John, you are correct. That doesn't really contribute to the economy at all, because it's just money exchanged from player to owner. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then you got to bring in sponsors. You got all these sponsors that make it mad money: Nike, Adidas, Reebok, et cetera, et cetera. So it is if you break it down to the nuts and bolts, absolutely, there is big money, which does kind of give us a help to the economy itself, because there's many small business owners that sell sports memorabilia. I mean, pawn shops do it. I mean, you got many different type of establishments like that. Absolutely.
But by the same token, money that isn't being spent on, sports memorabilia and stuff like that, is being spent elsewhere, or potentially even invested, which is, I would argue, a better use for the money. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not about to tell somebody what they do, with the money they earn from working.
Amen to that. And I got a quick question for you, John. And this comes from, I think it was the other day or a few days ago. You had said something to basically say that you don't believe there should be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I assume this wrong or not. So everybody, hopefully, if you're listening, I'm not quoting this word for word. So that now that John's there, you can kind of correct this if I'm wrong. But do you believe that there shouldn't be sports in general?
No, not necessarily sports in general. It's just what I have an issue with is the fetishization of professional sports, and the amount of sheer bullshit that comes along with it. Like, yes, obviously, we created sports because playing just in general is incumbent to human nature. We've been developing sports and games for literally as long as we've been alive, as a species. My issue is that I don't believe that these players should be receiving the amount of compensation and the amount of influence and money that they are doing for simply playing a game at a high degree.
Okay, so you disagree with the economics part of sports, not necessarily the sport itself.
Right.
Okay. By the way, me and Andrew had a conversation about this the other day or something like that after you said that, and I even told him I think I know what he means by I don't think there should be sports, period. It's not necessarily you don't believe that sports should be kind of eliminated. It's the economic part of it, because that's really the only argument you can really have. And this will kind of bring us into another question or topic here about this: is sports is good for the human being.
Yeah.
I mean, sports is such a important role in mental health. I mean, physical health. I mean, especially team sports. It builds character. It builds discipline. It builds chemistry. I mean, it's so many different aspects of sporting in general that kind of is good for, us as a species, like you were saying. And we can all agree or disagree that the economics behind sports is ridiculous. I mean, you got doctors out there doing heart surgery, saving people's lives. They get paid less than your second string quarterback. I mean, that's ridiculous. So yes, absolutely, I disagree with that. But sports itself is a very important role, especially, I mean, in rural areas and, very, kind of ghetto areas. Those are things that kind of give some people hope that they can do something with their lives, because they don't think they can do anything other than that. Although you can argue that they don't put their mind to it like they do playing football or basketball, but that gives them something to look forward to and a hobby to keep them distracted from doing some, dumb shit or committing crimes or going a bad route in their life. So there's many different aspects on why sports is a very good thing for everybody to enjoy at some point or at all times. I mean, not only for the health reasons, but also to build their character. Absolutely.
I think that it's like that for all sports, man, not just team sports. Like, I'm a huge MMA fan too. I think MMA does the same thing, and I don't think those fighters get paid enough, man, because they really get bad CT. They get their heads smashed in so much. But I agree with both of you guys. I don't think there's any reason why Steph Curry needs to be wiping his ass with hundreds, man. Like, yeah, he get $200 million for a contract to play for 5 years is way too much fucking money. Way too much. There ain't no damn reason you need to pay a player so much that he's able to buy like $50 million yachts and shit like that. You don't need that shit. Like, there ain't no point in anybody having that.
It doesn't just stop there. See, what a lot of people don't realize is there's, they have different kind of bonuses for playoff appearances, and if you win a championship, the money they get from commercials and advertising, and different kind of events they go to and host, and sponsors. I mean, the list goes on when it comes to them making money throughout the year, other than their contract. I mean, it's ridiculous. So yeah, Stephen Curry might have signed a contract for $200 million for 5 years, but you best believe that dude's probably making, with that 5 years, that same 5 year stretch, he's probably, making $400 or $500 million with everything else he's doing. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
On top of getting free shit all the time. They're getting like free clothes, free shoes, free like phones and shit like that. Sometimes they get like free car insurance for just popping into a car commercial or whatever for a little bit. Like, you're not only you guys making $200 million, most of the shit you getting is fucking free. What kind of shit is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And they get comped for every meal they have at a restaurant because they show their face there, or they get comped a free room at a hotel because they show their face there. It's ridiculous. I 100% agree. 1,000% agree with that. Absolutely.
But there's positives. There is like just in your local people playing sports. You know what I mean? Just going up to like the YMCA to play basketball. There's a positive aspect of team sports. Well, not only obviously the health issue. Keeping in shape. I mean, that's an obvious one. But I'm talking about like the importance of learning to play with other people. Like, I think it helps build character, and it helps build morale for other people. To when you learn to play with other people, if you're on a team of 5 and you learn how to work with a team, is that's how we get things done as human beings.
And
I do actually, as far as we've come, is from working with each other.
I do actually want to speak on that, and I guess kind of also clarify a little bit. Sports, they are social events, and that's something human beings need. We are social animals by default, I guess. I didn't want to say design because, well, we weren't designed. But anyway, different topic. That's it. I have no issue with the concept of sports. The economics and the influence, and that's it. I don't believe you shouldn't be getting paid more than someone, like a surgeon or a doctor or a teacher. Teachers are, criminally underpaid. But that's it. There is a lot of value in just the aspect of doing the sport itself.
Yeah, there really is, especially like how I said, learning to work as a team. That's like, I think that's a huge part of it, because like I said, man, that's how we've gotten as far as we've gotten. And we started surviving as a species when we started becoming hunter gatherers and working with each other and getting food and so on and so forth. And then now building up cities, building up entire nations now. And we built that nation with a bunch of people working together, not just like a 1 or 2 people being like, hey, I'm the shit, I can carry us all. Because no matter how badass a person think they are, they can't carry the entire team. It's just not it can't happen. Michael Jordan needed Scottie Pippen. You know what I mean? Michael Jordan needed Dennis Rodman, just like all the other players out there. LeBron James needed Dwayne Wade, so on and so forth. It's endless. Like, that's the whole beauty of the team sports, and I think that's important for people to learn. It helps with the it helps with mental health, with dealing with other people. It really does. Like, I think a lot of people would be less thick-headish if they learn how to play as a team when they were kids.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I agree 1000%. And like you were saying, I was saying, it's just something that builds a lot of character for not just a short amount of time, but that lasts a lifetime. Even if you play sports for a short period of time, that's something that you take with you, for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? So it definitely is a very important role. And we all agree with the economic part. We all agree that, you got many teachers and doctors and other important roles in society that are getting underpaid dramatically, and then you got a guy that can shoot a basketball or run a football faster or stronger or whatever. When they're making more than the other, it's just it's ridiculous. But that's they're entertainers, and the entertainers that's the reason why people want to be actresses. You can say the same thing about actors and actresses. Why do you get paid so much money?
Worse.
In fact, you could say that, especially with the controversy they have when it comes to, Hollywood, of course, and all the.
They're all there. They're all out there making $100 million, and they're raping people at the same time. The fucking
it's crazy. Absolutely.
To add a bit of a, I guess, political or philosophical perspective to this, what is entertainers, let's just say. What is their value to society? What are they contributing? Now, of course, in terms of a cold hard product, something tangible, obviously nothing, but we're valuing entertainers and, celebrities, actors, so on and so forth, beyond those who fulfill, like a much more necessary role. Like, I guess that's it. How much do you weigh enhancing life versus prolonging life?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Like, the only thing they're really doing is just giving us entertainment. That's it. They're giving civilians and people like that just pure entertainment. That's all they're doing. That's it. They're not giving us food. They're not giving us shelter. They're not giving us the safety. They're not teaching our children. I think that all those kinds of people are the people that we should be paying more attention to, especially teachers, man. Like I could go on for days for teachers. Like these teachers, we're paying all these teachers to raise our children, and teachers now are so severely underpaid. I think you could kind of see that in society now. That's how you got fucking flat earthers, because fucking kids didn't get taught right. Reason why they didn't get taught right is because the teacher makes like 20 grand a year. Don't give a shit.
Yeah, and it comes a time where when you're growing up, you see, especially if you're in high school and you start learning a little bit. And I know they don't teach much economics in school itself as much as they should, I should say, but you start kind of figuring out what you're trying to do for a living for the rest of your life after you get out of high school and go to college and all that. Which way are you going to lean? You going to look at your teacher driving a freaking Pinto, or are you going to look at a fucking guy, playing basketball driving a Ferrari? Who do you want to be? You know what I mean? It's like it's clouding many people's minds economically. When it comes to important roles to society. You can say eventually there's going to be limited and there's going to be limited supplies of many important roles in society because you got people or jobs that are just not important, and whether they're entertainers or just kind of they have a certain set of skill that doesn't make them really necessary for life, or I shouldn't say life because that's a bad way to put it, but necessary for like important role of society. They're more leaning toward that than they are another, and I don't agree with that. I agree that entertainers, they should, especially sports. Now, we'll get into actors and actresses here in a second, but sporting events and people, the players, I should say, they put their bodies through hell. You got to remember, these guys, that they're told what to eat, when to eat, when to train, how to train, the shit that they put in their bodies, and the damage, especially hockey and football. Those are two of the main sports that really put their bodies through tremendous injuries and just strengths in general, that, when you're done with, a short 10, 15-year career, you're out there feeling like you're 60 years old and you're like 35. Right. You know what I mean? So I do agree that they should be compensated more than just your average Joe. I agree with that because of what they're putting their bodies through for, especially. Really, what are they really putting their bodies through? For? Are they doing it for an important cause, or no? They're doing it to watch, so we can watch them slam into each other every once in a while. So they're really not doing it for any good cause. They're doing it just, because it's having fun. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I agree they should be paid on that. When it comes to the virus affecting this moving forward, especially in, physical sports. Again, football, basketball, more in hockey more than others. Because golf,
MMA too.
MMA, especially boxing, MMA, any kind of places like that in general. Golf, even baseball, you can kind of have restrictions or procedures put in place that kind of make it easier for you to still kind of play that game. But football and basketball, I think it's going to change, and hockey, I should say as well. That's going to change, and I think the virus is going to change a couple different restrictions, not just immediately, but this I think it's going to continue on for the foreseeable future, for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I seen that they're thinking about bringing about basketball back for a little bit with just fans scattered around and everything like that. I think that'd be good. Just because you got to think about like all the people that depend on those jobs too, man. I mean, how many people work inside that stadium realistically? I mean, it's got to be at least 1,000, if not over. I mean, all those people are without a job right now. And you're talking like stadiums are scattered across America, from like all the college stadiums to all the NFL stadiums to all the NHL stadiums. That's a lot of people. I've known people that they make their living that way. It's a decent living, you know what I mean? And that's a lot of people without a jobs too. I know it wouldn't be the same if they made the games with just those mixed fans in the stands, but at least the people that do have to work like that for a living will be able to go back to work.
Yeah.
It's worth arguing though that if the stadium itself is going to be running at reduced capacity, they're not going to need the same amount of staff.
That is true, but at least some people get back to work. You know what I mean? And it's better that some people get back to work than none.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, sports is one thing that's going to take a pretty big economic blow because of this, is because, I mean, without fans at the stadiums, you're talking about not only ticket sales dramatically decreasing, not only concessions dramatically decreasing, but your memorabilia is going to be decreasing, because every arena you go to has your jersey shops, and every time you go to any kind of sporting event, the one thing that is full is the concession stands and the goddamn Hobby Dobby shops. Yeah, there's usually lines waiting to buy a jersey or buy some kind of memorabilia for that team or those teams itself. I mean, it's, those are things that are going to take a very big economic blow because of this virus. And, again, I do believe that there's going to be some restrictions and some procedures in place that could change a lot of that, not only immediately like it is now, but for the foreseeable future. I mean, think about you shaking someone's hand moving forward. How weird is it going to be when you finally shake someone's hand? It's going to be
well, for me, it wouldn't be weird because I don't care. Like, I think that's a whole different discussion you initially thought it was. I have no fear of shaking anybody's hand, to be honest. I have a healthy immune system, so.
Well, there's a lot of people that think it's over-exaggerated for a good reason. It is, but I kind of throw this out there. We live in Florida, so we have hurricanes, every year, some kind of hurricane. If a meteorologist on the news was downselling a hurricane and it turned very big and turned ugly, everybody's going to be kind of, lax, and they're going to start blaming that guy, especially if he downsells and acts like it's nothing. Nobody's going to take it seriously. Nobody's going to get supplies. Nobody's going to get fuel. Everybody's going to be just like, oh, they're not worried about it, so I'm not going to worry about it, right? Yeah. So they do have to exaggerate it to a point where people do take it somewhat seriously. So a lot of people are pointing fingers like, oh, they're lying to us, they're over-exaggerating to scare us. Well, I don't think necessarily it's meaning to scare us that much. I think it's more along the lines just letting everybody know, hey, this is more serious than you could take it for. So until we know how to really approach this or really what it is, take the proper procedure and, follow the right protocols so you can save yourself and your family. Again, I agree with you, Andrew. It's definitely over-exaggerated and blown up, but, for a good reason it is. I mean, it's definitely not something you can just say, oh, don't worry about it, not a big deal. And then it turns to be a big deal, and who you're going to blame? The government. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a thing that I do kind of like that. I don't like anybody losing their jobs. I don't want that to come out this way. I don't like that anybody's losing their job over anything. But I am glad that like things at the concession stands and stadiums and all that will like decrease in dollar because it's fucking bullshit. You have to spend $15 for one Bud Light. That's bullshit. You know, that's all. I'm glad on that aspect.
John, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I guess tied into that, I believe it was Andrew Cuomo. I'm not sure who exactly said it, but they said that, you know, if it looks like, we overreacted and went way overboard, then we did everything right. That's it. It's just sort of like it's better. Consider the condom rule. It's better to have a condom and not need it rather than need it and not have it. It's better to overreact, especially when, human life and is on the table, but there's nothing quite wrong. I mean, yeah, okay, we're all overreacting. I don't know where I'm going with this. Fuck. I mean, yes, there is an overreaction, but is that really such a bad thing? Like, I mean, if it saves lives and, helps protect things, is it really that wrong?
No, it's
I
not.
could see that.
Like I said, I agree 100%, John, that it's not wrong to do that. To an extent, though. I mean, Andrew kind of said it himself that once you start putting, our economy at risk, now you can exaggerate it to make sure we're all careful or not, but when you start putting people's livelihood at risk, that's when it kind of, that's when it comes down to this is, getting a little ridiculous because, I mean, you literally shut down the country for, a month or month and a half, and many states are still kind of shut down. If I'm not mistaken, Michigan's still shut down, right, John?
Uh, Restrictions have eased back. Certain things are open, like, of course, there's still no mass gatherings or anything like that. If you can work from home, you are directed to work at home. But things are definitely loosening up. And
Good.
perhaps you could call this being triggered, but I'd just like to point something out. There is an awful lot of concern about, just the economy, and it blows the fuck out of my mind. Why are we so goddamn worried about money? Money's fake. Money's made up. The only reason money has any value is because we all agree it does. Why are we so goddamn concerned with the economy when we can all just universally agree to go, okay, let's just, we'll forget about, this shit happening. Let's reset things the back the way they were. Like this whole, oh my god, the economy. Oh my god, the economy. Fuck you. People are dying. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I agree, John. And by the way, this is definitely a topic for another podcast, everybody. It definitely is. Money is the root of all evil. 1000% I agree. But until said otherwise and until proven otherwise, human nature, I mean, we like money. I mean, unfortunately, that's the unfortunate truth, John, that, your electric company, your cable company, your insurance company, your landlord, and your mortgage companies, finance companies, until they're willing to budge, money you kind of need money to pay for those things, or you won't have them, unfortunately. But that's just the way that kind of works. And I really wasn't affected that much by the virus because I work over the phone and things actually went pretty well for me, honestly, when it comes to my financial and my job itself. I know many other jobs took a really big hit, and one thing I feel bad for is like the small mom and pop shops that literally have to close down their business because they couldn't open or they couldn't have day-to-day revenue. To kind of steer this direction back to sports, I don't feel bad for the economics of sports at all because you got LeBron James and you got all these, even your second string and your bench players and just people that are not as relevant as your superstars or highly known names, they're still making millions of dollars. So they could take a couple years off and still be just fine unless you're, irresponsible financially, and that's your own problem if you're out there partying all your money away. But the sports, one thing I will give sports is I do agree that they need to be compensated. Now, not to the degree that they are. I have no sympathy for the fact that they would not get paid or they would take a pay cut during this virus. I actually agree they should have taken a pay cut. you haven't been able to perform at all. I mean, there's some players going on, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They're putting videos up of things you can do at home to kind of keep yourself busy, kind of some drills they're doing. And that's all cool. That's really cool for everybody, and especially kids that can kind of keep up with that. But I mean, if you can't play the game, you can't train, you can't go to any charity events, you can't go sign autographs, you cannot do anything to do your job. I don't think, again, I'm only referring to sports right now. I don't think you should be compensated. I think you should get something. I just don't think you should be compensated your rate. I think you have to take a pay cut.
I'm more worried about not the players, but I'm more worried about the people that rely on sports to make a living, man. That's the people that I'm generally worried about, because there's not just the people that work in the stadiums. You got people that that work in casinos in Vegas for all the bets. You got I have generally met people that make a living playing fantasy football. I don't know, just general like professional game, but there's a lot of people that livelihood depended on sports and not just the players. There's a lot of people involved in this, and those are the people that I'm concerned about, because those people generally don't have anything to fall back on too.
Absolutely. John, do you have something to say?
I guess I don't mean to sound unsympathetic to those people, but at the same time, at some point, when do you turn around and go, okay, I need to, try and find a different profession, or I need to try and find a different skill? Because granted, you can't just completely account for a pandemic that, goes and disrupts everybody's lives. And if it's thrown everything into turmoil. It is what it is. But at what point do you go, okay, that's it. At what point do you go, okay, I need to find a way to, get some income coming in if, my main source isn't available?
I agree, and I kind of feel bad. Don't get me wrong. I kind of agree with Andrew as well. I mean, when you got the concession stand workers and all that, I mean, I would agree that it's not a bad deal that they got to find a different job or they got to find a different set of skills. I'm not disagreeing with that. Everybody should, have, somewhat of a, security blanket or something to fall back on. But during this crisis or during the virus, I mean, there's not many jobs hiring. I mean, I guess you can go to Publix or you can go to Walmart, you can go to the places like that. They really don't pay you that much starting out. But when it comes down to it, I mean, there's not many places that are willing to hire, guys and come in there and train them face to face and one on one or whatever. I mean, there's, people are fighting to keep their job as it is. I mean, so it's kind of hard to kind of change directions. And now, again, when what Andrew was referring to with the people that are, work outside of just the players and the coaches, you're right. You got your concession stand workers, your kind of clerks. You got even the people that set up the, the equipment and the footballs or basketballs for the game, and they lay out the towels. I mean, you got such a wide selection of different type of things that's involved with just running an arena for one day or for one event, that yes, they do lose a lot of money. And I kind of feel bad for them, because it's not that easy for them to just go pick up something else and do it, because who's really hiring right now? I mean, not that I know of. I don't know many.
Honestly,
where's the line get drawn?
I would just like to point out to that. I don't know how it is down in Florida, but in Michigan, you or pretty much any delivery service, so UPS, FedEx, so Amazon, so on and so forth, any restaurant, like McDonald's, any grocery store, they're literally announcing on the PA or putting it in the window that if you come in and apply, you will have a job. Like, as far as, I mean, yes, I understand those aren't exactly high income jobs, and that's a whole other podcast, but like, there are jobs out there, especially now. That's it. Essential workers are, or in terms of, like food, delivery shit, so on and so forth. There's jobs out there, at least in Michigan. Other states, I can't speak for.
Well, to that standpoint, yes, jobs like that, I'm sure there are, because most of the jobs you named are essentials. I mean, I know Amazon hasn't shut down at all. I know that, and I know same thing with Walmart and Publix and Winn-Dixie and Kroger and your grocery stores and your fast food joints that you can just drive through and all that. So I agree, you can always go get a job during doing that, and It might be a change of direction for somebody that was, running a lighting crew at, the NFL to go to McDonald's for work. I mean, that might be a change of direction for that guy, but there comes a time where you got to worry about your family and, paying the bills. So don't, suck up your pride, I guess. So I agree with that, but I guess I should kind of rephrase what I meant. I mean, some kind of job that you can jump into that would be equal or greater kind of pay than a lot of things that people are doing in sports. You know what I mean? I mean, other than your concession stand workers, people in sports get paid pretty well. I mean, your lighting crews and your towel boys, believe it or not, they get paid pretty decent. They're not making $8 an hour doing that. You know what I mean? They're making a couple $100 a game, I would imagine. Anybody can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if that's factual or not, but I'm sure they're getting paid pretty decent, other than the concession stand workers, because I know they don't get paid that well. They're minimum wage workers, from what I know.
Yeah. Well, those are people are usually your ex-cons and stuff like that, man. Because those are generally the only jobs they can get. Like, not a lot of people like to hire ex-cons, but like if you go to like any kind of sporting event, and you don't even have to be a sporting event. It could be like a NASCAR. I mean, NASCAR is a sport, obviously, but I'm talking about like trucks or whatever. Any kind of event like that, and you see the guy walking around with like the beers and selling the beers for like $15-20 fucking dollars a pop. Yeah, that's that ex-con generally. Those are kind of the people they ex-cons generally have a hard time finding any kind of new job. Actually, they come out anyways, which is absolutely fucking absurd. But that generally kinds of be the jobs that they end up getting. There is a lot of other sports outside of just like football, like and basketball. You got your like big three: football, basketball, and hockey. And it's affecting MMA too. Like Florida just had here down in Florida, we just had 249 happen in Jacksonville. And it was a big upset. Justin Gaethje ended up beating Tony Ferguson. Now we'll probably never get fucking Ferguson Khabib, but whatever. That could have been a big part of it too. Is the fans not being there? Like they had it it almost looked like a Miami Marlins fucking game. The fans are so spread out. It looked so stupid. And on top of that, Joe Rogan and the other people he was commentating with, Daniel Cormier, they weren't even sitting next to each other. They were literally 6 feet apart, like they're doing the commentating together. And I think that had a big way of affecting those fighters too, man. Because fighting's obviously not team sport, but it's a one-on-one, and it's like you generate off of those fans. You know what I mean? If you make a good connection with the hit and you hear a fan being like, oh, like that gives you energy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that had a lot that affects those fighters as well. And same thing with boxing, man. Boxing's like another one of those sports that generates huge revenue, millions of fucking dollars. And boxing fighters get paid so much more than MMA. It's not even the same ballpark. But that's another one. And I don't even know if they're going to have any boxing matches coming up anytime soon.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. I mean, yeah, it's not just your main, sports such as boxing or your, hockey, football, basketball, or baseball. There's a lot of, sports that are going to take a real big hit when it comes to that energy they feed off of fans. I mean, you can break this down from track to, NASCAR racing. I mean, there's many sports that feed off that energy. It gives you confidence. It gives you, that pep in your step, or even especially late in the game, that gives you your second wind. You do a good play. Oh my God. Your adrenaline starts pumping, your heart starts racing. It gives you that extra push to kind of do something good, or, make that right play, make the basket, whatever the sport is. I mean, I think it's going to hurt sports tremendously. I think you're going to see a dramatic decrease in stats across the board. When it comes to this, just not only the stats as in points or touchdowns scored, I'm talking across the board, each and every tackles and, stealing big. I mean, it's going to be so many different things that are going to be on the decline because of this, especially if you do not have fans in those seats. A lot of players feed off of that energy.
Well, I think NASCAR is more of just for the fans. I don't think those guys in the cars could really hear. They're probably not with that law-house cars and then NASCAR and shit that they got. But I wanted to ask you guys something. Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard about Fight Island, what Dana White's trying to buy for the UFC, but he's trying to buy an island to have international fights on. Have you guys heard about that at all?
I haven't,
No.
and that sounds pretty scary. So it sounds like you're trying to have like some kind of death fight going
Dude,
on.
it sounds so dope.
Like that sounds like the start of either a horror or an action flick. I think it wasn't that actually like the premise for the plot, air quotes, for like a modern warfare game or something.
No, that's Enter the Dragon, the Bruce Lee film.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, there you go.
But
Yeah.
there was also a movie with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Remember that movie? How he kind of
Yeah, but they killed each other. That's not fighting. They were blowing
Okay.
each other up with C4 and shit.
Who's to say he's not looking forward to that too? I mean, you're.
Hey, man, I fucking watched that too.
Oh my god,
Dude, that's so gangster though, man. Just to go out and buy an entire island to have fucking international fights. Jesus Christ. That's so awesome, man. You guys don't like that idea?
I do. I mean, I don't understand the difference between having it literally just a UFC fight or kind of like a contest like they used to.
I can't explain the reason why that is. There's a bunch of fucking reasons. One, if let's say they wanted to have the fight in New York City, they have to deal with New York State, all right, and they have to deal with the USDA there. They have to get like their judges got to come from New York. Each state deals with each of these events on themselves. It's like they have to deal with different people. They have to deal with like different background tests, different drug tests, and so on and so forth. And say if they went to like Vegas, they have to deal with the Nevada people and not the New York people. Now, if he wanted to do it on Fight Island in international waters, they don't have to deal with nobody and do jack shit. They could literally just do whatever they want to train and just come to the island and fight. They don't have to do any drug tests. They ain't got to have nothing done. That's just all whatever Dana White wants. It would be Dana White's island. So if he buys that island, he makes up the fucking rules. It's international waters. They ain't nobody got law and stay out there. Which at the time it could be scarier for him, dude, because they go out there with teams, bro. Like, like what if that thing happened with Conor McGregor and Khabib again, where a ball-out brawl breaks out? You ain't gonna have like New York City's like police officers come there and help you break it up. Like you're on your own.
Well, I'm genuinely concerned about that, and there is perhaps some potential for human rights violation. Like, I don't know how I feel about that, honestly.
I don't. Yeah, that's the reason I wanted to bring it up and talk to you guys. I'm kind of conflicted. I think, first of all, I think it's just a gangster ass move. It's just like, for real, the government just to be like, you can't have events anymore, and if you do, it's only a few fans. He's like, fuck that, I'll buy an island. It's just like, I don't buy an entire island to have these fights.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. It can go one or two ways. I have a concern as well, like John. I mean, I think it'll be cool, you know, at first, but eventually I think some shit's going to break loose, and then, you know, some kind of law is going to be kind of governed on that, I would assume. But we'll see. I'm cool with it.
Right. Well, do you guys have anything that you would like to wrap up from all this?
Nope, I think we're good.
What about you, John?
I would like to remind everybody of an old Chinese curse, not the coronavirus, but an actual saying. May you live in interesting times. We live in interesting times right now.
Oh, that is very true. I think we definitely need to have a coronavirus episode recap or something like that. But for now, that's all we're going to have. Make sure you people like and subscribe. Make sure you people tune in to our side podcast that we're going to have spinning off here. We're all busy people, so we'll try to get these out as best as we possibly can. But thank you guys for listening to us, and make sure you behave out there and wear your mask and take care of each other.
Peace out.
Be kind.